There is an epidemic online, a silent virus slowly destroying the way you and I entertain ourselves daily. Content creators left and right having their revenue stolen, denied, or even outright removed entirely. And almost nobody is really talking about why and how all roads on this path share the same destination. Robert Fox was a young 24-year-old when he released Undertale in 2015, quickly amassing international attention and becoming the face of indie games almost overnight. But with all this attention, a dark plot was brewing beneath the surface. There's a saying, high tides raise all ships, and those who sailed with Mr. Fox experienced these high tides. Fangamer went from making unlicensed merchandise to partnering with indies and helping their distribution, including Mr. Fox. Soon after the massive success of Undertale, they're now primarily a licensed merchandise creation and distribution company, getting licenses from even the biggest names in gaming, such as Capcom. One such ship that was raised is the primary subject of this video, a music label called Materia Collective. Music labels and their enforcement of copyright laws is extremely contentious. It's one of the most controversial topics, not only online, but also in the real world.
What did you play for that jury? If I was the jury, what did you say to them?
So it was, so my one is, when your legs don't work like they used to before. And then there's, have I told you lately that I loved you? And then, people get ready. There's a train coming, and then, what was the, looks like we made it, look how far we've come, my baby, and oh, she breaks just like a woman. I mean, there was 101 songs that, and what I was saying is like, yes, it's a chord sequence that you hear on successful songs, but if you say that a song in 1973 owns this, then what about all the songs that came before? We found songs like, from like the 1700s that had similar melodic stuff, and then there was like huge songs in the 50s and huge songs in the 60s, and it's just, no one's saying that songs shouldn't be copyrighted, but you just can't copyright a chord sequence. You just can't.
The pop star is accused of plagiarizing the underlying beat in her big hit Dark Horse from 2013.
Katy Perry just took the stand here at the federal courthouse in Los Angeles, where she explained her process for writing her music.
The case is being compared to Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams, who were ordered to pay $5 million to the family of Marvin Gaye in a copyright infringement suit involving blurred lines. Now Katy Perry is facing her own legal battle.
If you've heard of Olivia Rodrigo's smash hit Good For You, you may have noticed its similarity to another song, Paramore's 2007 Misery Business. Well, now Paramore's Hayley Williams and Joshua Farro are credited on the track. It's unclear when they were added, but People magazine reports Rodrigo and Paramore's teams were in talks prior to the song's release. The change was noted by Paramore's publisher, who congratulated Williams and Farro when Good For You was declared Spotify's Song of the Summer.
Massive artists you hear on the radio at the supermarket get accused of copying someone else's work. So this isn't some niche, obscure thing. Even one of the biggest artists currently, Taylor Swift, didn't own her music.
Taylor Swift now in full ownership of her masters.
Like, I don't understand how you cannot fangirl about that.
The star breaking the news to fans with a handwritten letter. She's bought back her music catalog from Shamrock Capital, the investment group that took control of Taylor's OG label, Big Machine, previously purchased by her rival, music exec Scooter Braun. Before the buyback, Taylor was re-recording her first 6 albums to reclaim her art for herself.
Only recently buying them off the label who had them. And this isn't new. We've known how litigious and crazy record labels can be for a very long time.
Changing his name got him out of his Warner Brothers contract. Kind of. In 1992, Prince signed a contract with Warner Brothers for $100 million, which was the highest recording contract at the time. But later, Prince found that he lost a level of freedom that he had always fought for with that contract. So he had to take drastic action. So he released this press statement. The first step I have taken towards the ultimate goal of emancipation from the chains that bind me to Warner Brothers was to change my name from Prince to Prince is the name that my mother gave me at birth. Warner Brothers took the name, trademarked it, and used it as the main marketing tool to promote all of the music I wrote. The company owns the name Prince, and all related music marketed under Prince. I became merely a pawn used to produce more money for Warner Brothers.
This is why content creators don't use music owned by record labels in their content. If you do, your video is at risk. You could face a copyright strike, or worse, your video might be unmonetizable. I face this exact issue myself, but because I care more about creating an enjoyable video than making money, I don't mind if I can't monetize it. Though, personally, I would prefer a shared revenue system because if I'm featuring the music of an artist, I usually like that artist and want them to be just as, if not more, successful than me. I would rather that artist get money for their contribution to my video than neither of us getting any. And while extremely unpopular among creators, I personally wouldn't have minded every artist involved getting revenue share. From the people who make the games I've talked about, to the musician. I've commissioned artists, voice actors, and musicians for videos I've made. There's no reason that someone who makes a video based on someone else's work should want that person to not make money. It might not be a popular opinion, but that's why it's important to voice it. Without these people making these games, this music, without Robert Fox, we wouldn't have the fan gamer we have today. We wouldn't have fan games like Heartbound. We wouldn't have the Undertale fan community who makes all these theory videos and challenge videos. So shouldn't we give back to Mr. Fox? Shouldn't we help him and his people so he can keep making great games that inspire us? Funnily enough, that's the mission statement of Materia Collective. Wait, I think I messed up somewhere. Let me try this again. Josiah Smith was a young 23-year-old when he released Undertale Yellow in 2023, quickly amassing attention within the Undertale community. But with all this attention, a dark plot was brewing beneath the surface. Creators excited to play the fan game had their videos demonetized, robbing them of their sweet, sweet ad revenue and the lifeline and only, well, other than live stream donations, sponsorships, and merchandise, basically the only way that these creators could make money off the hard work of playing this fan game for their fan base. And it's not just Undertale Yellow, it's every fan game. It's Undertale's music as a whole. Undertale Yellow, a fan project with work entirely derivative of Toby's, had attempted to release their music on all major music streaming platforms. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what the issue here is exactly, so allow me to explain. First off, when releasing music through streaming platforms, every single listen is considered as part of a sale.
Want a break from the ads?
So fundamentally, this ends up being a money-making opportunity, or as Sebastian Wolf puts it, a commercial venture. Undertale in its original work is in ownership of Robert Fox / Royal Sciences and is enforced by Materia Collective in terms of music reproduction, broadcast distribution, etc. This means in order to use the Undertale name or create derivative works, you need expressed permission from the rights holders. Importantly, the rights holders here are known to be extremely lenient with enforcement of their right. That doesn't change the fact that it is legally needed. Where Undertale Yellow messed up, well, not actually. They did technically have permission, and they bought a license from DistroKid, but had not communicated with Materia, which is the only problem as specifics considering derivative works goes. This had made it confusing because as a simple miscommunication, it made it look as though both parties had not done what they needed. From the Yellow team, they were told they had permission and had purchased the license. Now, the company tasked with enforcing it is telling them incorrectly that they were never given permission, which from Materia's perspective makes sense given that they did not go through their process to get said permission. There's a huge misunderstanding within the Undertale community, which I will address in a bit, but I believe that the idea that Robert Fox wants his music to be public domain contributed to this misunderstanding, in the way that people in general think that that gives them permission to do something when it doesn't. However, that said, Sebastian Wolf's initial response is technically correct, even as Robert Fox has admitted himself. But I agree, it could have been handled better. So why is this a big deal? How digital rights management automation works creates a mountain of issues when things aren't licensed correctly or labeled correctly. This is something that even professional YouTubers struggle to understand, but I'll try to simplify it. Let's say you make an original song and upload it through music distribution. Now, you are the rights holder and enforcer. You decide what happens to your music. You're passionate about fan work because you grew up on fan work, or even your original work was fan work. So you make it a simple, email me and I'll allow your fan work of my work to happen. This works fine if 2 or 3 people are emailing you daily, but you don't even need to look up Undertale remixes to instantly understand how there's exponentially more than that uploaded daily. Well, what about extended versions or other uploads of your music, ones without any alteration? You don't have to look it up, but I already know that there's a lot of those for any game. How do those factor in? And what if somebody just uploaded your song and said it was theirs? That is what Materia Collective's job is. They handle all of this. Yes, it creates a process and slows down what fans are able to do, but there's a benefit to everyone involved. Materia and Robert himself has set up a guideline of dispute claims and then email Materia to alleviate the issue with content creators. But why must this be done? And why is it an issue for the Yellow team to upload their music? Do you know what version of Megalovania this is? Okay, how about this one? Alright, and this one? Here are the answers. Now, you may have gotten them all correct, but it should be obvious how easily it can be confused. And while we can look at the literal waveforms and spectrograph, remember how earlier I mentioned the legal case of Ed Sheeran? The differences here are much smaller, considering that they're different versions of the same song. This isn't about plagiarism though, this is how Content ID recognizes copyrighted material. Content ID makes mistakes and misidentifies silence as music, or music as different music. This false positive problem has been well documented. So even with things that sound nothing alike, this happened. Can you imagine how often it happens for something that is derived from a pre-existing song? This is why
I think a rapper sampled this song without permission and Sebastian Wolf got mad.
when the song is interpolated or sampled like this, it creates a very specific issue when the content is not labeled correctly. Now, whenever that original melody is used, even the original work, it can create a false positive for this song. You can have a playthrough uploaded the day Undertale was released and have a copyright claim from a song that didn't even exist yet. This can be used maliciously as shown here, which is a big concern for Mr. Fox. This is why Undertale Yellow's team uploading a bunch of what were at the time considered unlicensed derivative tracks was such a problem. Now, every single Undertale video could potentially be claimed by them even without their doing, because they put something into an automated system improperly. Not only affecting the ad revenue to Materia and Royal Sciences, but also enacting claims improperly on YouTube creators. But why would that matter if Robert Fox wants his work to be public domain? I will cut all the fluff and get right to the point. If he truly wanted his work to be public domain, it would be. It isn't. He wants to make art for a living, and that requires money, which means he needs to retain his copyright in order to profit off of it to sustain his lifestyle. There is nothing wrong with that. That is a literal fact, and unfortunately for his audience, that means you have to deal with minor inconveniences that they have built workarounds for you. Additionally, as I pointed out earlier, this helps prevent bad actors from abusing the copyright system against you. So a lot of this controversy and misunderstanding has been pushed by Undertale content creators. Now, I need to say, I wrote this before allegation and evidence of a particular member being a sex pest were public, so it might seem odd to highlight their involvement, but I think it plays a major role in the conversation. Cible's initial video was meant to address issues with Undertale Yellow's music, as well as express issues she experienced. This video poorly frames a few things, which paints Materia as an entity that works against Undertale fans, but notably, they're told to contact Materia directly by none other than ShayyTV.
My only option at this point was to wait for Materia to release the dispute. However, I heard from my friend Shay that contacting Materia directly can help speed up the process.
This creates a weird issue. I'm not excusing the insanity of the response at the time, but there's something I find interesting about this interaction that I want to save for later. Soon after, Cibble does an interview with a representative from Materia Collective, Jamie, and nobody watched this video.
What he's trying to do, get conversations going about copyright in music and like get more people to understand it. Because if we have a broader ecosystem of creators who understand the basics of how copyright works, we can alleviate a lot of these issues before they ever happen. So when you go and you look at his Twitter threads and stuff like that, yeah, a lot of the way he talks is like very terse and sort of lawyer brain, but he's trying to get a conversation going around that topic. Yeah, I definitely think that a lot of that Twitter thread could have been handled way better. Sebastian's intention is absolutely never to backlash against creators. I know that's hard to believe. His intention is to educate, even if that means sometimes he comes from like an unfortunately condescending place, which I have admonished him a few times over.
Anyway, shortly after, ShayyTV outlined a specific interaction where they followed the guidelines that the rights holders outlined.
As per the instructions which were outlined by Toby Fox's tweet, I then disputed all 6 content ID claims on the video. According to everyone, this is the intended process, and the claim should either be released automatically from that, or Jamie would get back to me and do it manually from his end on Materia's side. Then, I got a few emails from YouTube. My disputes had been rejected by one of the claim holders, IPRSCS. This alarmed me, as claims were always supposed to be resolved in your favor according to the official instructions I've been following for years now.
Except they didn't. Mr. Fox says to dispute all claims in his post, and ShayyTV stopped and made a post after receiving one incorrect claim.
So I wrote this tweet and sent it just to simply alert them that this was going on so they could look into it and see if there was any kind of issue such as impersonation or something like that.
This is already a misstep on the process outlined for them, not to mention that they emailed the wrong person,
and proceeded to reach out and email Jamie directly about the issue.
While having a contact at the company should generally help you move things along, when a process has you fill out a contact form for a specific issue that you're facing, usually that means that there's an individual team that processes those issues. Shay had performed the process incorrectly and made a post about it.
So I wrote this tweet and sent it just to simply alert them that this was going on so they could look into it and see if there was any kind of issue such as impersonation or something like that.
In which this is already answered in the FAQ. This screenshot comes from the Wayback Machine in 2023.
Say it with them, folks. I can't read, I'm an Undertale fan.
So not only is Shay not correctly following the clear steps outlined for content creators to resolve this issue, their post is about something that is already addressed in the place where those steps are clearly outlined, and the response they got follows this information exactly.
Shay, it's late. Go to bed.
Shay was not following the steps. They were not reading the available information given to them to resolve their issue, and instead made a public spectacle about it. And what's odd about that is if we look back at the Cibble situation, we could talk about how Shay encouraging Cibble to bypass this process caused the oddity that she experienced.
So that's what I did. I added them on Twitter and they responded with ping. I mean, you could have just said email. I've never heard anyone say ping. Either way, when I emailed the address, I sent them over the claim information and they were super friendly about it. Before they took a look at the claim, they asked me to review their YouTube FAQ and then send them a link to the video that had the claim on it. So that's what I did. I looked through the FAQ and the only thing I could find that my video didn't follow the rules of was that I needed to credit Toby Fox and Materia music in the description. To be fair, I've never heard of this rule existing before, but hey, it was simply them asking to give credit to the people that own the music, so I can't be too upset about it. Credit is nice. I also sent them the link to the video too, which they requested. Now, it's very important to note here that I sent them the first video I uploaded, not the second video I uploaded. Thanks, Cibbles. It looks like Undertale music was used in a different game, so the copyright claim will stay in place for this one.
Sybil was told her video was to be rejected, so the person handling her dispute looked at her account and rejected the most recent dispute.
They denied the dispute for the wrong video. So what's funny about this is that they denied the dispute for the second video I uploaded, but accepted the dispute for the first video I uploaded. And if you recall, the first video was the one I sent them in the link.
While I'm sure they could look at the video IDs to approve specific videos, I need you to imagine the scenario. Think about an office where a bunch of entry-level employees or interns handle the process of approving Undertale copyright disputes. And the deal Materia has is check that it's credited. The people in this position are not going to be that discerning. If the person Sybil emailed sent a message, reject Sybil's newest dispute, or went to the system to reject the newest dispute themselves, then they would hit the second video as outlined in Sybil's video, while the other followed the normal process, filtering to that less discerning group. Now, I'm not saying content creators shouldn't have a way to expedite the process, but I also say that I don't care. I'm going through the same process outlined here that any other content creator does to upload this video myself. And I know what you might be thinking. Didn't Jamie from Materia Collective do a couple of interviews where he said some of this stuff? And the small amount of you that watched that would be right. Though I wrote all of this before realizing that interview existed. And judging by view counts, you likely didn't know it existed either. Funnily enough, what Jamie says in the interviews do align with what's said publicly. The difference is tone. His tone and how he addressed the issues is far more in line with how people generally expect this to go. But more importantly, he points out how Shay's actions were not conductive for a productive resolution of the issue at hand.
That I get a lot of people coming to me to ask, like, hey, I have, my video has been copyright claimed by Materia. What do I do? How can I reach out to them? Because a lot of people nowadays, they're like, they don't know if it's safe to reach out, like where to reach out to. What's the best place to contact you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is to reach out to our publishing email inbox, info@materiamusicpub.com, just because that's the inbox that gets looked at and is set up to specifically handle YouTube content claim issues. But yeah, always feel free to reach out.
Is Twitter a safe place to reach out?
Twitter's just not a great place to reach out for business inquiries in general. One, because, we just don't necessarily want to support such platforms. And two, it's not really a great place for business to transpire. If you're reaching out about a YouTube claim that is business, even if it's something small, best to keep that over email. A great rule of thumb is if there's a public question, there's going to be a public response. So the easiest thing to do is to keep things over email. It's much better for archival purposes. You can download an email, keep it in the back pocket. It tends to be a little more permanent than a screen cap of whatever post that could be deleted or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, email is always the best place.
Not following proper procedure and making a public spectacle on a shitty social media platform. And, well, this isn't about Shay. This is a series of misunderstandings about what systems are at play to protect artists and how all of this was overlooked to unrightfully point a community's ire at people who are working hard to make sure that the people who make the art you love get the money they need to keep making the art you love. This isn't to say that the company handled the situation perfectly, rather that the errors they did have were corrected rather quickly, and painting their intent with a negative light while fundamentally not understanding basic copyright or complicating a process that's already complicated has a long-term effect on what was a short period of mistakes. This is the reason I made this video. Despite multiple interviews and information that was already readily available even at the time, people still make comments based on bad information and continue to harass Sebastian Wolf. Mistakes were made throughout this, and ultimately I feel it was a few missteps that were blown out of proportion that gave people a wrong impression that persists to this day.